I drove 6 hours for my dad's birthday. After my whole family promised dinner was locked in, the restaurant had no reservation and nobody answered my calls. 3 days later, my mom texted, "Your brother's engagement dinner is Saturday. Send $1,200 tonight." I sent her $1 with a note that said, "Good luck." By sunrise, Dad was calling in a panic, and my sister had suddenly lost her attitude. Before we start, I just want to say, if you've been watching but haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. We're trying to build something big here, and every single subscription pushes the channel forward. Be part of it. Now let's jump into today's story. I ironed a dress shirt at 5:30 in the morning for my father's birthday. The iron was old, the kind with a frayed cord I kept meaning to replace, and I had to go over the collar twice to get the crease out. I packed a card I'd written the night before. Nothing fancy. A few lines about how 65 looked good on him, a joke about the fishing trip we never took. I sealed the envelope, wrote "Dad" on the front, and set it on the counter next to my keys. The drive was 6 hours. I knew it by mile marker. Exit 14 was the gas station with the crooked sign. Exit 47 was where the highway split and the left lane always backed up. Exit 112 was where my phone signal dropped for about 8 minutes and came back near the overpass. I'd made this drive enough times to know it, the way some people know their morning commute. I pulled into the restaurant parking lot at 11:50, 10 minutes early because I always am. The lot was half full. Nice place. White tablecloths visible through the window. When a hostess stationed just inside the door. She smiled when I walked in. "Name?" "Calloway." She checked the screen, ran her finger down the list. Checked again. "I'm sorry, sir. We don't have anything under that name." I showed her my mother's text. The restaurant name, the time, the date, the words. "The whole family will be there." She looked at it, looked at the screen, looked at me. "I can check the system further back if you'd like." "How far?" "A month." "Please." She typed, scrolled. Her expression didn't change, but her scrolling slowed, the way someone's does when they're being thorough because they feel bad. Nothing under Calloway. No booking, no cancellation, no call. "I'm really sorry." I thanked her. Walked back through the front door. The parking lot looked different than it had 2 minutes ago. Same cars, same asphalt. But the light felt different. The way a room changes when you find out the person you were waiting for isn't coming. I called my dad. Voicemail. His recorded message was the same one he'd had for 3 years. Slightly too loud, slightly too close to the microphone. I waited for the beep, hung up without leaving a message. Called my mom. Voicemail. Her recording was businesslike. She never liked leaving long outgoing messages. Called Kevin, called my sister Tara, called my aunt. 5 calls in 4 minutes. Every one of them rang until the voicemail picked up. Nobody declined. Nobody was busy. They just didn't answer. I stood in that parking lot holding a birthday card and a shirt I'd ironed in the dark. My keys were in my right hand. The sun was almost directly overhead, and there was no shade where I'd parked. I could feel the heat rising through the soles of my shoes and the fabric of my shirt sticking to my lower back, where the seatbelt had pressed it flat for 6 hours. A couple walked past me into the restaurant. They had a reservation. I could tell by the way they walked in without slowing down. The hostess greeted them by name. I looked down at the birthday card. "Dad" in my handwriting. Blue envelope. The pen I used was still in the cup holder. I'd written it at my kitchen table at 10 p.m. the night before, trying to find the right thing to say about 65 years. I settled on something about how the best part of getting older is that you stop pretending the little things don't matter. I thought that was good. I thought he'd read it at the table, maybe after the appetizers, maybe after a glass of wine. I thought I'd watch his face while he read it. Nobody was going to read it. After the 5th call, I almost did something I would have regretted. I opened my GPS, typed in my parents' address. The blue route line appeared on the screen. 42 minutes. I stared at it. My thumb hovered over "Start." I could be at their front door in under an hour. I could stand on the porch and ring the bell and watch someone explain. I stared at that blue line for 8 seconds. Then I closed the app and called Marcus instead. Marcus was a friend from college who'd settled in the area. We weren't close the way some people are close. We didn't talk every week, but he was the kind of person who picked up the phone when it rang, which on this particular Wednesday put him ahead of every person I shared blood with. He answered on the second ring. What's up? I'm in town. Long story. You around? Come over. I put the birthday card in the glove compartment next to the gas receipt. $87.40. 6 hours of highway for a table that was never booked. Let me back up. My name is Ethan, and I'm the person my family calls when something needs to happen. Not when something needs to be discussed, celebrated, or shared. When something costs money. When my brother Kevin's transmission blew last spring, I wired $900 before he finished explaining the sound it made. When my father needed a flight to see a specialist in Denver, I booked it, window seat, aisle for my mother, the hotel for 2 nights. When my mother wanted to throw my aunt's retirement party, she texted me a number and I sent it. No invoice, no payback schedule. Just a text and a transfer. Now, I don't know exactly when the pattern started. Somewhere around the time I moved 6 hours away and started earning more than anyone in the family expected. The calls shifted. They used to be about holidays, about coming home, about did I see the game last night. Then they became about amounts. Not always directly, sometimes wrapped in a story, a problem, a soft emergency. Sometimes just the number and a deadline. My sister Tara stopped calling me by name and text. She'd just write, "Hey, can you help with something?" And the something was always a number. My brother Kevin never called at all unless it was to say thanks for something I'd already been asked to pay for. My father was the furthest from it. He never asked directly, but he never stopped anyone else from asking, which in a family like mine is the same thing. My mother ran the system. She was the dispatcher. Every need, every crisis, every cost routed through her phone to mine. She didn't see it as taking. She saw it as organizing. The difference between those two things shrinks when you're on the receiving end. I told myself it was generosity. That being the one who could help was better than being the one who couldn't. Marcus, 3 years later, would sit across from me at a kitchen table and call it something else. But at the time, it felt like the only thread connecting me to a family that was slowly becoming a list of contacts I sent money to. The birthday dinner was supposed to break that. My father turning 65, a milestone. My mother texting me details on a Monday like she was inviting me back into something I'd been drifting out of. I read that text twice. I ironed the shirt. I wrote the card. I left before sunrise. Now I was parked in Marcus's driveway with a crease in my collar and 12 hours of highway in my back. His kitchen was small and warm, cutting board with garlic still on it, a radio playing low. He put a plate of leftover pasta in front of me and sat across the table with a beer. He didn't ask what happened right away. He just sat there, comfortable with the silence. The way people are when they've known you long enough to know that pushing makes things worse. I ate half the plate before I said anything. I drove 6 hours for a dinner that didn't exist. He looked at me but didn't respond. Waited. Restaurant had nothing. No reservation, no booking, no cancellation. It was never made. And nobody picked up when I called. Marcus set his beer down. He was quiet for a moment. And I could tell he was choosing between 3 or 4 things to say and discarding most of them. When's the last time someone in your family called you that wasn't about money? The question sat in the air between the pasta and the radio. I opened my mouth to answer, closed it. I picked up the fork and kept eating because I didn't have an answer, and my mouth needed something to do besides try to make one up. That night I slept on his couch. My phone stayed dark. Not one callback. Not one text asking where I was, how I was, whether I'd made it to the restaurant or whether I was lying in a ditch on the highway. I'd been unreachable for 5 hours, and nobody in my family had noticed or cared. In the morning before I left, Marcus handed me a coffee at the door. "You're not a bad person for asking questions about this," he said. "You'd be a bad person for not asking them." I nodded, got in the car. 6 hours home. Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. My apartment, kitchen table, glass of water, phone. I opened my banking app, not because I had a plan, because Marcus's question was still sitting in my chest and I needed to see what the answer looked like in numbers. I scrolled through the transfers to my mother's account, the past 12 months. Each one had a reason she'd texted before the amount, the way a pharmacist labels a bottle. Dad's tires need replacing, $350. March. Furnace repair, can you help? $500. January. Medical bill for Dad, insurance didn't cover it, $400. 3 weeks ago, that last one, $400. I stared at the date. Then I opened my credit card statement. I almost never checked it line by line. AutoPay handled the balance. But the total was higher than usual, and I wanted to see why. 3 charges from a name I didn't recognize. The Whitfield room. The first one was $400. The date was the same day as the medical bill transfer. Same amount. Same day. My mother asked me for $400 to pay for my father's medical bill, and on that same afternoon, a venue I'd never heard of charged my credit card $400. I searched the name. The Whitfield room, event venue, private dining, celebrations, capacity for 60. 2 more charges from the same place. $350 2 weeks ago, $280 last week. I hadn't authorized any of them. My mother has had my card number for years. I used to read it to her over the phone when something came up. At some point, she saved it somewhere and stopped asking. I never questioned it. I trusted her the way you trust a wall in your own house. You don't check if it's still there. You just lean on it. I went back to the transfer history. Not just the recent months, the full year. I wanted to see the shape of it. April, $200 for Easter supplies. That was the weekend of my cousin Jess's baby shower. I found out about the shower 3 weeks after it happened, through a photo someone tagged on Facebook. I wasn't there. I wasn't invited. July, $300 for Dad's checkup follow-up. That was the week of my sister Tara's birthday dinner. Nobody mentioned it. I found out when Tara posted a group photo at a restaurant with the whole family and a cake with candles. I counted the people in the picture. 7. I wasn't one of them. October, $450, house needs a plumber, urgent. That was Thanksgiving weekend. I spent it in my apartment eating Thai food from a container. They had a full table. I saw the photos on Tara's Instagram 3 days later. Turkey, candles, Kevin's girlfriend helping in the kitchen. Everyone accounted for except me. The pattern wasn't hidden. It was just arranged so that you wouldn't see it unless you lined everything up on the same page. And I'd never done that before, because I trusted them. The $400 for Dad's medication went straight to the Whitfield room. My father's actual medication cost $35 a month. I know because I've driven the refill to his house twice when my mother said she couldn't make it to the pharmacy. Thursday night, I sat on my couch with the phone face down on the cushion next to me. The TV was on. I don't know what was playing. I was looking at the screen, but I was seeing the hostess scrolling through the reservation system. While seeing my mother's text with the restaurant name, typed on Monday, sent to a son she knew would drive 6 hours without asking questions, because that's what he does. She typed it the way she types transfer requests. Efficient, direct, no room for follow-up. The engagement dinner had been in the works for weeks. The venue was booked, the card was charged, and on Monday, 4 days before my father's birthday, she opened her phone and invented a restaurant reservation to keep me out of the way. I picked up the phone, opened contacts. My mother's name was at the top of the recents because she was always at the top of the recents. Not because we talked often, because every time she texted a number and I sent it, her name floated back to the top. She hadn't called me in 4 months, but she'd texted me 6 times. Each one was a request. Each one had a dollar amount. I almost pressed her name, not to confront her. I wanted to hear her voice while she explained. I wanted to know if the lie would come out smooth, rehearsed, or if she'd have to reach for it. I wanted to hear the pause before the excuse, if there was one, or the absence of a pause, which would be worse. My thumb sat on her name for 3 seconds. I could feel my heartbeat in my fingertip. Then I backed out of the contacts and opened the banking app instead. The energy that was going to become a phone call rerouted itself. It moved from my throat to my hands, from words to numbers, from a conversation I'd lose to an action I could control. I wrote down 3 figures on the back of an envelope: the venue charges, the transfer total for the year, and the number I'd send tomorrow if she asked. $1. Sonia, I put the phone screen down on the table. I already knew what I was going to do. I just hadn't done it yet. Friday was quiet, work, home, coffee at the kitchen table. At 3:47 p.m., my mother texted, "Your brother's engagement dinner is Saturday. Send $1,200 tonight." No greeting, no mention of Wednesday, no reference to the birthday, the restaurant, the drive, or the 5 unanswered calls. Just the amount and the deadline, the same way she always sent them, like an invoice from a company that doesn't know your first name. I read it 3 times, set the phone on the counter, walked to the window and stood there. The $1,200 was the remaining balance on the Whitfield room booking. I'd seen the numbers on my credit card statement. The venue charges already on my card covered the first $1,030. The $1,200 was the rest. She wasn't asking for a contribution. She was asking me to close a tab she'd opened in my name without my permission for an event I wasn't invited to. I cooked dinner, rice and chicken, simple. I ate standing at the counter because sitting at the table felt like it required more commitment to the evening than I had. I washed the pan, wiped down the stove, put the leftovers in the fridge in a container I'd had since I moved in, the lid slightly warped, the kind of thing you keep meaning to replace. The phone sat on the counter the whole time, screen down. 4 hours passed. I know because I checked the stove clock twice, once at 5:30, once at 7:45. In between, I sat on the couch. I turned on the TV and didn't watch it. I picked up the phone once at 6:20, opened the text, read it again, and put it back down. I picked it up again at 7:10 and held it for a full minute, thumb on the screen, not opening anything, just holding it, feeling the weight of it, the weight of $1,200, the weight of 7 years of being the one who sends it, the weight of what it would mean to stop. At 7:30, I stood in the kitchen and ran water over my hands for no reason. Stood there with wet hands, no towel, looking at the counter where the phone was sitting, screen down next to a salt shaker and a stack of mail I hadn't opened. I dried my hands on my shirt and sat back down. At 7:50, I picked up the phone, opened the banking app. My mother's account was saved. The transfer screen loaded. Her name autofilled. The cursor blinked in the amount field. I typed 1,200, looked at it. 4 digits that would fix Saturday, fund the party, complete the transaction, and confirm that the system worked exactly the way it was designed to work. Ethan receives request. Ethan sends money. Ethan is not present. Ethan is not needed. Ethan is a wire transfer. I deleted the number. Typed 1. In the memo field, good luck. I pressed send. I sat there for a minute, hands flat on the counter. I breathed out the way you breathe when you set something down you've been carrying for so long that your shoulders don't know how to sit without the weight. Then I picked the phone back up and called the Whitfield room. It rang 4 times. A woman answered, professional, unhurried, the voice of someone closing up for the night who's used to getting last-minute calls. I'm calling about a booking under the name Callaway. I believe my credit card is on file as the primary payment method. Let me check that for you. Keys clicking. A short pause. Yes, we have a card ending in 4471. It's listed as the primary payment method. The event is scheduled for tomorrow evening. Can you tell me who provided that card number? The booking was made by a Patricia Callaway. She listed the card during the initial reservation. Patricia, my mother, her name on the booking, my card in the slot, my money as the foundation, my name nowhere on the guest list. I didn't authorize those charges. A longer pause this time. She was recalibrating. I understand. Would you like me to remove the card from the account? Yes. I'll process that now. I should let you know that the remaining balance will need to be settled by another payment method before the event. Our policy requires full payment 24 hours in advance for Saturday bookings. If the balance isn't settled by noon tomorrow, the reservation will be released. Understood. You may also want to contact your card issuer about disputing the charges. I will. I hung up and called the credit card company. A representative named David answered. I told him I wanted to dispute 3 unauthorized charges from the Whitfield room. He pulled them up. I see 3 charges totaling $1,030. The first was $400 on March 28th, the second $350 on April 4th, and the third $280 on April 11th. None of those were authorized by me. Understood. I'll open a dispute for all three. You should see a provisional credit within 5 to 7 business days. Hey, would you also like to request a replacement card with a new number? I thought about that for a second. A new card number would mean my mother's saved copy would stop working. Not just for the venue, for everything. Yes, I said. I'll have that processed tonight. You should receive the new card within 3 to 5 business days. He gave me a confirmation number. I wrote it on the back of an envelope and set the pen down. The kitchen was quiet. The stove clock read 8:34 p.m. Friday night. Somewhere my brother was pressing a suit for Saturday. My mother was reviewing a seating chart that didn't include my name. My sister was probably picking shoes for an event she hadn't mentioned to me once. None of them knew that the card behind the whole thing was already dead. I put the phone on the charger, turned off the light, stood in the dark kitchen for a moment. The refrigerator hummed. Through the window, the apartment complex parking lot was lit by one yellow lamp that flickered every few seconds. I went to bed. Saturday, 6:15 a.m. The phone. Dad. I let it ring 3 times. The screen glowed in the dark room. His name and the photo I'd assigned to his contact years ago. A picture from a barbecue where he was holding tongs and squinting at the sun. He looked younger in the photo than he did now. I picked up. Ethan. His voice was tight, the way he sounds when something isn't working and he can't fix it with his hands. We have a situation with Kevin's dinner. The venue is saying there's a problem with the payment, something about the card. I know. You know? The card on the venue was mine, Dad. Mom gave them my number without asking, and I had it removed. He was quiet. The $400 you needed for medication 3 weeks ago, that went to the venue deposit. Same day, same amount. Still quiet. I have the statements. Ethan, this isn't... Was there ever a reservation at La Tavola on Wednesday? Silence. I could hear the clock in his kitchen through the phone. The one on the wall above the stove that my mother bought at a flea market before I was born. Your mother handled that. That's not what I asked. Did anyone take you to dinner Wednesday? We had something at the house. Kevin and Lisa came by. Your sister was there. At the house, while I was standing in a parking lot 200 miles away, holding a birthday card with his name on it, calling a phone he didn't answer. They were at the house, together, having the birthday dinner, the real one. All right, the one with Kevin and Tara and food on the table and the kitchen light on. My mother had sent me to an empty restaurant the way you send a package to the wrong address on purpose. Not a mistake, a redirect. Keep Ethan busy. Keep Ethan on the highway. Keep Ethan 6 hours away and useful only from a distance. The way he's always been useful. My hand was tight around the phone. I could feel the edge of the case pressing into my palm. I need to go, I said. Ethan, don't do this. I hung up. At 7:30, Tara texted. My sister. First message in 3 weeks, and the last one before that had been a thumbs up emoji. Hey, can you call me when you get a chance? There's some stuff going on with Kevin's dinner, and Mom's freaking out. I think there might have been a mix-up with the payment. I know things have been weird between us, but it would really help if you could just call. No sarcasm, no edge, no thumbs up emoji. The sentence structure was different. Longer words, softer punctuation. She'd written, I know things have been weird between us, as if the weirdness was weather, something that happened to both of us equally, something nobody caused. She didn't mention the 6 months of one-word replies. She didn't mention the birthday dinner she attended at my parents' house while I stood in a parking lot 200 miles away. She didn't mention the calls she didn't answer on Wednesday. She mentioned the money. 6 months of attitude erased in one text. Not because she'd reconsidered. Not because something between us had shifted. Because the balance had. The financial balance. And the one she didn't know she depended on until it disappeared. I read the text twice. Set the phone on the counter next to the stove. The clock on the wall said 7:43. Kevin called at 8:15. Voicemail. Again at 8:22. Voicemail. At 8:30, a third time. I picked up. Ethan, hey, listen. Fast, breathless. The voice of a man who'd never been in the room when a problem started and had never had to be the one to solve it. The venue is saying the card got taken off and there's a balance, and Mom is trying to figure it out, but nobody can sort it before tonight. Can you put the card back on? Just for tonight? I'll pay you back, I swear. How much? What? How much will you pay me back? Whatever the balance is. I don't know the exact number. You don't know how much your own engagement dinner costs? He went quiet. So Laura and Mom handled the details, he said, with my credit card. I didn't know about the payment stuff, man. I found out this morning. The venue has been charging my card for 3 weeks, Kevin. $1,000. And Mom asked me for another $1,200 last night to cover the rest, for a dinner I wasn't invited to, after sending me to a birthday reservation that didn't exist. What do you mean it didn't exist? There was no reservation. There was never a reservation. I drove 6 hours and stood in a parking lot while you all had dinner at the house without me. The line was quiet for a long time. I didn't know about that, he said. Lower, smaller. I believe you, but that doesn't change anything. So what do I do about tonight? Figure it out. I hung up. My mother called at 9:45. I watched the screen. 10:12. Again. 10:30. One each time her name on the glass, the buzz against the counter, the silence when it stopped. At 10:48, she left a voicemail. I played it. Ethan, I don't know what happened, but we need to sort this out. The venue is saying there's no payment method on file and Kevin's dinner's tonight. I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding with the card. Call me back so we can fix this. This is your brother's night. Don't make this about you. Don't make this about you. I deleted it. The rest of Saturday, I stayed in my apartment. I cleaned the kitchen, scrubbed the stovetop until it looked new, did laundry, folded everything, even the socks, even the undershirts I usually just throw in the drawer. I wasn't being productive. I was keeping my hands busy because my hands wanted to reach for the phone, and I wouldn't let them. Around 2, and I went for a walk, twice around the block. The weather was the kind of mild that doesn't ask anything of you. I stopped at a bench near the park and watched a kid throw a tennis ball to a dog that kept running past it. The kid wasn't frustrated. He just kept throwing. The dog kept running. Neither of them was getting what they wanted, but they both seemed fine with the arrangement. I sat on that bench for 20 minutes and thought about the birthday card, still in the glove compartment, still sealed. Dad, written on the front in my handwriting. I thought about what was inside it. The lines about 65 looking good on him. The joke about the fishing trip. I'd meant every word when I wrote it. I still meant it sitting on that bench. The problem wasn't the card. The problem was the address it was supposed to go to. My phone buzzed a few more times through the afternoon. I could hear it from the kitchen when I was in the living room. A faint vibration against the countertop, like something tapping to get in. By 4, the calls slowed. By 6, they stopped. At 9, I sat on the couch and picked up the phone. 11 missed calls, 3 voicemails. The first was from my mother. Same tone, same framing. I played 10 seconds and deleted it. The second was from Tara. Shorter, tighter. Ethan, Kevin's really upset. The dinner happened, but it was a mess. A total mess. Can you just call Mom? Please. I deleted it. The third was from my father. His voice was different. The morning panic was gone. What was left sounded older. Slower. The way he sounds late at night when the house is empty and he's sitting in the kitchen by himself. On Under the Clock my mother bought before I was born. I should have called you Wednesday, he said. 6 words. Then the message ended. I held the phone. The screen glowed with his name and the timestamp. 8:47 p.m. I didn't call back. I didn't delete it. I set the phone on the nightstand, turned off the light, and went to bed.